The night sky above Earth looked peaceful. Stars glittered like diamonds, the moon shone bright, and the oceans reflected silver light. To anyone standing on the ground, it seemed like a normal night. But high above, hidden in the darkness of space, humanity was preparing for its greatest test. On the edge of orbit, the Earth Defense Fleet waited. Dozens of ships floated in formation, their engines glowing faintly. Inside them, soldiers checked weapons, pilots strapped into their cockpits, and commanders whispered last instructions. The ships hummed with quiet energy, but the mood was heavy. Everyone knew something was coming. And then, the signal arrived. A scout ship, watching far out in the blackness, sent a desperate message. "They're here." No one needed to ask who. Humanity had known this day would come. For months, strange signals had been detected in deep space. Unfamiliar codes, patterns, and whispers carried by the stars. Scientists argued, politicians denied it. But the soldiers knew the truth. Earth was being watched. And now, the watchers had finally arrived. In the command center of the flagship Resolute, Admiral Hayes stood at the front. His face was stern, but inside he felt the same fear as his crew. He had led battles before, but never against something like this. "Report," he said. An officer swallowed hard. "Multiple contacts. Large fleet, bigger than anything we've ever seen." The room went silent. Only the beeping of screens and the soft hiss of the ship's engines filled the air. Hayes looked at the stars outside. Somewhere out there, beyond the dark horizon, the enemy was coming. He thought of Earth below, the cities glowing with lights, the children sleeping in their beds, the families who had no idea what was about to fall upon them. He clenched his fists. "We must hold, no matter the cost." Meanwhile, across the world, ordinary people felt something in the air. In small towns and giant cities, people looked up at the night sky. Some thought they saw strange flashes, moving lights that were not stars. Rumors spread quickly. Fear whispered through the streets. In a quiet village, a young boy asked his father, "Are the stars angry tonight?" The man could not answer. In a city rooftop cafe, a woman pointed upward. "That light, did it just move?" Her friends laughed nervously, but deep down they all felt the same chill. Something was coming. Something too big to hide. Back in space, tension grew heavier. The fleet floated silently like hunters waiting for prey. But in truth, they were the prey. The enemy was larger, stronger, more advanced. Humanity's weapons were powerful but untested against alien technology. A pilot named Rami sat in his cockpit, staring at his reflection in the glass. His heart pounded. He thought of his sister back on Earth, how she had hugged him before he left. He whispered to himself, "I'll come back. I have to." Beside him, other pilots said silent prayers, checked photos of loved ones, or simply closed their eyes, trying to stay calm. The stillness was almost worse than battle. Waiting felt like drowning. Then the first ripple appeared. At the edge of the radar screens, space itself seemed to tremble. Shapes began to appear, massive, glowing shadows moving closer. Alien warships. Their hulls gleamed with blue light, their outlines sharp and predatory. Shields shimmered around them like walls of fire. Gasps filled the command deck. Even hardened soldiers stared in awe and terror. One officer whispered, "They're enormous." And indeed they were. Each alien ship was larger than the biggest human battleship. Their weapons glowed with strange energy, unknown and deadly. Admiral Hayes gave a single order: "All units, battle stations." The calm night was over. The storm had arrived. Across Earth, the sky lit up. From the ground, people saw distant flashes, silent bursts of light among the stars. Some thought it was fireworks. Others knew the truth. In one home, a mother held her child close as the news broadcast crackled. "An unidentified fleet has entered Earth's orbit. Please remain calm." But there was no calm. Every heart beat faster. Every soul felt the same fear. Inside the flagship, Hayes gripped the railing. He looked at the enemy fleet filling the dark sky. They were here to conquer, to destroy, to erase humanity. He knew this. But he also knew something else. Earth would not fall without a fight. "Remember this," he told his officers. Whatever happens tonight, the galaxy will know that humanity stood its ground. The crew nodded, their faces pale but determined. The screen showed the enemy moving closer. Weapons charged, engines roared, and the silence of space was about to be broken by fire. The first battle for Earth was seconds away, and it would decide not just the future of a planet, but the fate of an entire species. The night was silent in space, but inside every human ship there was fear. Engines hummed like whispers, and red warning lights flashed across the control rooms. The Earth Defense Fleet floated in orbit, waiting. Soldiers stared at their screens, pilots tightened their gloves, and commanders tried to keep their voices steady. Everyone knew what was coming, and then they arrived. The alien fleet tore through the black sky like monsters made of steel. Their ships were enormous, glowing with strange blue fire. Shields shimmered around them like walls of light. Compared to them, the human fleet looked like children holding sticks against giants. A voice broke the silence on the human channels. "They're here. All units prepare for battle." The first blast came from the alien side. It was not just a weapon, it was a storm. A beam of burning plasma ripped through the darkness, striking a human cruiser. In seconds, the ship was nothing but a cloud of fire and broken metal. The humans answered back. Missiles launched, guns fired, and the sky filled with light. But when the missiles hit the alien shields, they only sparked like fireworks on glass. The guns rattled and boomed, but the enemy ships did not fall. Inside one human destroyer, a young pilot named Rami gritted his teeth. "It's useless," he whispered. His co-pilot beside him did not reply. Both of them watched their shots bounce off the glowing alien barriers. Every blast from the enemy felt closer, louder, deadlier. Across Earth, people were watching, too. Families crowded around screens. Children held on to their mothers' hands. The night sky lit up with strange flashes of light as the battle raged above them. Every explosion echoed like thunder in the air. Every time a human ship went silent, the world below seemed to grow colder. On the main command ship, Admiral Hayes stood tall, though his face was pale. He had fought wars before, but never like this. He gripped the railing as the enemy fired again, shaking the human fleet. "Hold your positions," he ordered. His voice was strong, but inside he felt the same dread as every soldier. The aliens pressed harder. Their flagship, larger than any city on Earth, moved forward slowly like a predator closing in on its prey. Its weapons glowed brighter and brighter. Each time it fired, another human ship was torn apart. The sounds of fear filled the comm channels. "We can't hold them. Shields failing. My engines are hit. I'm going down." Admiral Hayes closed his eyes for one brief moment. He thought of Earth below, of the billions of lives waiting, helpless. He thought of what would happen if they failed here. Humanity would not just lose a battle, it would lose everything, but then, he remembered, there was still one chance. One weapon the aliens did not know about. Hidden on a secret orbital station was something humanity had built in silence, in secret, as their last hope. It was untested, unproven, and maybe even unstable. But it was all they had left. He leaned closer to his officers. "Prepare the experimental cannon." The officers froze for a moment. They knew what he meant. The weapon that had never been used in combat. The weapon some called impossible. But there was no time to argue. They sent the signal. Far above Earth, hidden in the shadow of the planet, a massive platform began to move. Deep inside it, machines hummed to life. Metal groaned as if the station itself feared what was coming. Power lines glowed red and energy surged through coils larger than buildings. The humans on the battlefield still fought, still tried, though they were pushed back again and again. The aliens laughed in their language, sure of victory. They thought this was just another easy conquest. They thought humanity would be crushed like dust. But something was changing. In the silence of space, the experimental cannon began to charge. Lights flickered across its frame. Sparks danced along its long barrel. Energy built up with a deep, steady hum, like the heartbeat of a giant. On the command ship, Admiral Hayes whispered to himself, "Just one shot, just one chance." Every soldier, every pilot, every citizen on Earth prayed without words. Their weapons had failed, their ships had fallen, But this one secret might still turn the tide. And as the alien flagship advanced, ready to deliver the final killing blow, the platform locked its aim. The galaxy was about to witness something it had never seen before. The weapon was ready, and the trigger was about to be pulled. The battlefield was chaos. Human ships burned like falling stars, their wreckage drifting across the black void. The alien fleet moved forward, glowing shields untouched, their weapons tearing through every defense Earth had. But hidden in the shadow of the planet, the secret weapon was awakening, the experimental railgun, humanity's last hope. It stretched across the orbital station like a giant spear, longer than any ship, heavier than any machine humans had ever built. It had never been tested in a real fight. Some scientists had even whispered it might destroy itself when fired, but there was no choice left. Deep inside the control room of the station, engineers rushed across glowing panels. Sparks flickered from cables. Warning lights flashed red. The air vibrated with the heavy hum of charging power. "Power coils at 70%, one officer shouted. His hands trembled as he read the numbers. "Stabilizers holding barely." "We only get one shot," the commander reminded them. His voice was tight, his eyes fixed on the massive barrel outside the viewport. "Make it count." In space, the alien flagship loomed larger. Its weapons charged again, glowing with deadly blue fire. Human soldiers braced for impact. Many closed their eyes, expecting this to be the end. But then the sound came, a low, rising hum from the railgun. It echoed through the station like the growl of a beast awakening after a long sleep. Metal trembled. Floors shook. The engineers could feel the vibration in their bones. Outside, arcs of electricity crawled along the weapon's surface, like lightning searching for release. The barrel glowed faintly, brighter with every second. Admiral Hayes's voice crackled through the comms. "Target the alien flagship." "Lock it in!" The targeting computers struggled. The alien shields bent light, confused sensors, tricked scanners. But slowly, carefully, the reticle locked onto the massive ship. "Target acquired," a young technician whispered. Her voice was full of fear, but also hope. The alien commander on the flagship noticed the strange weapon powering up. He laughed, his voice sharp and cruel. "Another human toy," he told his crew. "Fire will erase it before it fires at us." The flagship's weapons began to charge. Inside the railgun station, the tension reached its breaking point. Sweat dripped from foreheads. Fingers hovered above controls. The hum grew louder, deeper, almost painful to the ears. The barrel now glowed like a piece of a star. "Power coils at 100%, the officer called out. "Railgun ready!" For one long moment, time seemed to freeze. Every soldier in the human fleet stopped firing, staring at the massive weapon. Every family on Earth, looking to the skies, held their breath. And then, fire! The trigger was pulled. The railgun roared. A blinding flash split the darkness. A solid metal slug, accelerated faster than anything built by human hands, tore through space. The recoil shook the entire station. Alarms screaming as panels cracked and sparks flew. The shot cut across the stars like a streak of white fire. It hit the alien flagship's shield. The shield held for a heartbeat, just one. Then it shattered. The slug ripped straight through the alien flagship, tearing its armor apart as if it were paper. Explosions blossomed from the inside, fire bursting through the cracks. The ship groaned, twisted, and broke apart, its glowing core erupting into a storm of light. Silence followed. For the first time, the battlefield was quiet. Human soldiers watched, their mouths open, their eyes wide. The invincible enemy, the ship they thought could never fall, was gone. Destroyed by one human weapon, on Earth cheers erupted. Families cried. Children screamed with joy. Strangers hugged each other in the streets. Across the world, people realized they were not helpless anymore. Humanity had struck back. On the human flagship, Admiral Hayes gripped the railing. His hands shook, but his voice was steady. "We did it," he whispered. Louder, into the comms, "Humanity stands!" But inside the alien fleet, panic spread. Ships slowed. Commanders shouted over each other. None of them had expected this. For the first time in their endless war across the stars, they felt fear, yet it was not over. The railgun's shot had worked, but the weapon was unstable. Inside the orbital station, systems were failing. Sparks rained from the ceiling. Cooling pipes burst, spraying steam. Engineers screamed as consoles exploded. "We can't fire again," one officer shouted. "The coils are melting." The commander clenched his jaw. "Then we protect what we have." That shot was enough to show them. "We are not prey anymore." The alien fleet began to regroup. Their commanders barked orders. Though shaken, they still had numbers, weapons, and rage. They were not leaving yet. Humanity had shown its strength, but now the question was clear. Could they survive the counterattack? The battlefield grew silent again just for a breath. The railgun still glowed with heat, smoke rising from its coils. Human ships circled, damaged but alive. Alien ships turned, preparing to strike again. And in that fragile moment, every soul knew one truth. The war had changed forever. The alien flagship was gone. What seconds before had been a shining fortress, untouchable and proud, now floated as burning wreckage across the void. Its armor was torn open, its core shattered, its once mighty presence erased by a single human shot. For a long moment the battlefield froze. Human soldiers stared in silence. Pilots who had been screaming with fear just moments ago now sat speechless in their cockpits, eyes wide, hands trembling. Entire fleets had witnessed something impossible. The railgun shot had not just destroyed a ship, it had destroyed an idea. The idea that humans were weak, that alien power could never be challenged, that this war was already lost. On Earth, the night sky flashed with the explosion. Families watching from rooftops gasped, then cheered, then cried with joy. Mothers hugged their children tightly. Fathers raised fists to the heavens, and strangers in the streets clapped and shouted together. Humanity had its first real victory. In the command chamber of the human flagship, Admiral Hayes felt the weight of the moment. His voice cracked when he spoke into the comms. "Look at it," he whispered. "The invincible has fallen. Humanity has struck back." Cheers erupted across the human fleet. A chorus of voices filled the comm channels, soldiers crying, pilots laughing, officers shouting with pride. For the first time, the fear that had gripped them all was gone. But on the alien side, the silence was different. Inside the alien fleet, their commanders were frozen with shock. For centuries, they had conquered weaker worlds with ease. Never once had their flagship fallen to a primitive race. Never once had their shields been pierced. Now, their strongest warship was nothing but debris. The alien commander of the Second Fleet stared at the destruction, his 4 eyes wide with disbelief. His voice trembled as he spoke to his crew. "The humans, they have a weapon." Fear spread among them, but quickly turned into rage. The loss of their flagship was not just a defeat, it was an insult. An unforgivable wound to their pride, and pride demanded blood. The alien fleet shifted. Engines roared, weapons glowed, formations tightened. The hesitation was gone. They were no longer playing with their prey. They were out for vengeance. Admiral Hayes saw it. His victory was real, but he knew it was not the end. His hands gripped the railing tighter as he watched the alien fleet regroup. "They're coming again," he said softly. Then louder to his officers, "All ships prepare for retaliation." Human ships formed defensive lines. Damaged cruisers limped back into position. Pilots who had just cheered wiped their tears and set their jaws, ready to fight again. The railgun was still cooling, unable to fire. Humanity had struck once, but now they had to survive the storm that would follow, and the storm came fast. The aliens attacked in fury. Their ships poured fire into the human fleet, plasma beams tearing through the void, missiles exploding in blinding light. Human shields flared and cracked. Explosions ripped through hulls. Pilots screamed over comms as entire wings were wiped out in seconds. The battlefield turned into fire and chaos once more. Yet something was different. Before the railguns shot, humans had fought in despair, expecting death. Now, even as their ships burned, they fought with fury, with hope, with pride. On Earth, people did not hide anymore. They did not cry in silence. They shouted to the skies, cheering every time a human ship fought back, screaming encouragement as if their voices could reach the stars. The railgun itself still glowed faintly, smoke rising from its coils. Engineers inside the orbital station worked desperately to cool the weapon, to prepare it for another shot. Sparks rained from broken panels, alarms screamed, but their hands never stopped moving. "We need more time," one shouted. "Buy us that time," the commander replied grimly, and that was exactly what the fleet did. Human destroyers threw themselves in front of alien fire, protecting the railgun. Fighters swarmed enemy cruisers, distracting them with suicidal runs. Every ship, every pilot, every soldier knew the truth. If the railgun could fire again, maybe, just maybe, the battle could be won. But until then, they had to survive. The alien commander snarled as more of his ships were damaged by human resistance. His pride burned hotter than his rage. He raised his clawed hand and shouted a command. "Erase them! Erase their planet!" The alien fleet began to shift its aim, towards Earth itself. Admiral Hayes saw the move and his heart turned cold. He slammed his fist against the railing. "They're going to fire on Earth!" The words sent a chill through every human soul. Billions of lives below were now in the line of fire. The railgun still wasn't ready. Human ships were too few. The alien fleet was charging weapons, preparing to unleash devastation on the planet. Admiral Hayes' voice broke through the chaos. "All ships, block them. Do not let them fire on Earth. If we fall, humanity falls with us." The human fleet answered with fire, with sacrifice, with everything they had left. Ships collided with alien cruisers. Fighters dove headfirst into enemy fire. And the night sky burned with the light of desperate courage. The way Galaxy had seen the shot that shook the stars. Now, it would see if humanity could survive the price. The stars still burned from the railgun shot. But victory was already fading. The alien fleet, furious at the loss of their flagship, surged forward with renewed rage. Their weapons lit up the void, beams and plasma striking human ships like hammer blows. For every cheer that had risen from Earth moments ago, now came silence as people watched human ships vanish in fire. Hope and fear mixed together, twisting in the hearts of billions. The aftershock of the first victory was here, and it was brutal. In the command deck of the human flagship, Admiral Hayes stood firm though the floor shook beneath him. Sparks rained from the ceiling. Red alarms wailed. Reports came in, one after another. Shield grid down on the western flank. Destroyer Valiant destroyed. Enemy pushing toward Earth's orbit. Hayes' jaw tightened. He knew the truth. One railgun shot had bought them pride, but pride alone would not hold against this storm. He looked at the tactical display. The alien fleet was shifting. Their formations no longer focused on human ships. Instead, they angled toward Earth itself. The flagship's destruction had wounded their pride so deeply that now they wanted revenge, not against soldiers, but against the billions below. "They're targeting the planet," Hayes whispered. His voice carried across the deck like ice. On Earth, sirens wailed in every city. People filled the streets, staring at the sky where strange flashes of light danced above the clouds. Every explosion echoed faintly in the night. Parents held their children tighter. Priests prayed in temples and mosques. Leaders gave desperate orders to shelters. In one small town, an old woman whispered to her grandson, pointing at the burning streaks in the sky. "Look, child, that is history being written. Remember this night." But in orbit, history was being written with blood. Human ships threw themselves into the path of alien fire. A cruiser named Indomitable took 3 direct hits, shields shattered, hull burning, but still it rammed into an enemy vessel, taking both ships down together. A squadron of fighters screamed into the void, knowing they had no chance against the alien guns, but buying the railgun more seconds to cool. Inside the orbital station, the railgun engineers worked like men possessed. Their faces were blackened with smoke, their hands burned from sparks, but they did not stop. "Coils at 40% capacity," one shouted, coughing from the smoke. "Not enough," another yelled. "We need more time." The commander of the station slammed his fist against the console. "Then we hold. If the fleet falls, we fire anyway, even if it destroys us. Meanwhile, in the alien command ship, rage boiled. Their leader stood tall, his eyes burning with hatred. These humans dare to challenge us. They dare to wound our pride. His claws scraped the metal floor. We will make their home a graveyard. Fire on their planet. Weapons across the alien fleet shifted. Massive cannons, glowing with unnatural energy, pointed downward at Earth. The atmosphere itself began to tremble with their power. Admiral Hayes saw it. His heart sank. He slammed the comms open, his voice fierce and desperate. All ships intercept! Block their fire no matter the cost. Earth cannot fall! Human ships answered with courage. They moved into the line of fire, shields straining, hulls breaking apart, but still they blocked the alien cannons. Every second bought was a gift of survival for the billions below. In the cockpit of a small fighter, Rami, the young pilot, whispered to himself. If this is it, then let it mean something. He pushed his fighter straight into the path of an alien plasma beam. His ship burned instantly, but the beam was deflected, buying the fleet a few precious moments. On Earth, people watched the sky flicker with light. They didn't know the names of the pilots or the ships, but they knew. Someone was up there dying to protect them. Tears filled their eyes, not just of fear, but of pride. The alien fleet charged their weapons again. The ground shook on Earth as their cannons reached full power. Inside the railgun station, alarms screamed. The engineers shouted in panic. Coils at 80%. Almost there. Hold steady. Systems overheating, coolant failing. The commander's voice cut through the chaos. Prepare to fire even if it kills us. Humanity's future is worth it. The railgun began to glow once more. Electricity crackled along its massive barrel. The hum returned, deep and steady, like the heartbeat of a giant rising again. But outside, alien weapons were already ready. Their cannons blazed, aimed directly at Earth. Admiral Hayes knew the truth. Whoever fired first would decide the fate of the planet. His voice thundered across the fleet. Protect the railgun. Buy them the last seconds they need. And the humans did. Damaged ships moved into the line of fire. Fighters dove into alien cruisers in suicidal strikes. Every pilot, every crew, every soldier gave everything they had left. The railgun's coils screamed with heat. Engineers shouted, consoles exploded, and steam hissed from broken pipes. Power at 100%. Someone cried. Target locked! Fire! The railgun prepared to unleash its second shot, but at that exact moment, the alien fleet fired too. The stars themselves seemed to shake. The battlefield was on fire. Human ships drifted in ruins, flames and debris scattering across the dark. The alien fleet, furious and merciless, glowed with the energy of their charged cannons. Earth hung silent below, a blue and green jewel, fragile against the storm of war above. At that moment, two lights blazed in the void. The alien cannons unleashed their fury downward, giant streams of plasma and energy burning toward Earth's atmosphere. At the same time, the human railgun fired its second shot. The two forces lit the stars like twin suns. Inside the orbital station, the recoil shook every wall. Consoles shattered, sparks rained down, and the floor cracked beneath the crew's feet. The barrel glowed white-hot, trembling with power. Engineers screamed as systems overloaded. But the slug was already gone, streaking toward its target faster than sight. The alien beams roared downward, their light reflecting off Earth's oceans and cities. The world itself trembled as the sky burned red. On Earth, people dropped to their knees. Some cried, some prayed, some screamed. The sky above them shimmered like fire. For a moment, they thought this was the end, that their planet was about to be torn apart. But then, something happened. The railgun's slug tore through space and collided with the alien flagship leading the bombardment. The impact ripped the ship in half, its core exploding in a violent flash. The blast wave ripped through the alien formation, scattering their fleet like leaves in a storm. The plasma beams faltered. Some burned out midair, others veered off course, crashing into the ocean or burning harmlessly in the upper atmosphere. Earth shook, but it did not fall. Admiral Hayes watched in awe. His eyes, filled with exhaustion, now shone with fire. "They missed," he whispered. Then louder, across every comm channel. "Earth stands! The railgun has saved us again!" A roar of voices erupted across the fleet. Cheers, laughter, cries of relief. But beneath it all was another truth. The railgun was nearly destroyed from the second shot. Its coils smoked, its systems shattered. There would not be a third. Now, it was man against monster. In the chaos, a group of alien cruisers broke through the human line, moving straight toward the railgun platform. If they destroyed it, humanity would lose its symbol of hope forever. Admiral Hayes saw them coming. His voice was firm, but his heart was heavy. "Intercept them, whatever it takes." A small wing of fighters answered the call, led by a scarred veteran named Darius. His ship rattled with damage, his fuel nearly gone, but his voice was steady as he spoke into the comms. "We'll hold them off, Admiral." For Earth, he knew what it meant. So did his squadron. None of them expected to return. The fighters screamed forward, diving into the path of the alien cruisers. Enemy fire ripped them apart one by one, but they kept going. Darius pushed his ship into the lead cruiser, ramming it head-on. The explosion tore through the alien line, scattering the rest. The railgun was safe, for now. But the cost was heavy. Hayes closed his eyes for a moment, honoring the fallen. On the alien command ship, the leader's rage boiled. His voice thundered across his bridge. "These humans, they are not warriors. They are vermin. Why do they not break? Why do they not fall?" His second-in-command hesitated. His eyes shifted toward the ruined flagship, the burning wreckage, and the relentless human fleet that still fought despite its wounds. His voice was quiet. "Because they have something to protect." On Earth, in cities and villages, people gathered outside, watching the flashes above the sky. They had seen death. They had felt terror. But now they felt something stronger, hope. Back in orbit, the battle raged on. Human ships fought like cornered wolves, striking with fury at every chance. Alien cruisers fell one by one, torn apart by desperate attacks. Admiral Hayes's voice carried across the comms, steady and strong. "This is humanity's turning point. Hold the line. Fight with everything you have. The galaxy is watching us now." His words lit fire in weary hearts. Soldiers screamed with renewed strength. Pilots gripped their controls tighter. Engineers worked faster despite their burns and blood. The galaxy had seen the railgun's shot, but now it was seeing something greater. It was seeing the human spirit. As the battle reached its peak, the alien fleet began to falter. Their formation broke. Ships hesitated. For the first time, they looked like the hunted instead of the hunters. Admiral Hayes leaned forward, eyes burning. "They're breaking. They know fear." The railgun platform, half ruined and sparking, still loomed in the darkness like a silent warning. The aliens had seen what humanity could do with just one weapon, one chance, and they were not ready to face another. One by one, the alien ships began to retreat. Engines flared, weapons dimmed, and the once invincible fleet turned away from Earth. The turning point had come. Humanity had not only survived, they had made the galaxy's strongest empire retreat. But Admiral Hayes did not celebrate. His eyes lingered on the wreckage, the drifting bodies, the silent ships that would never return. His voice, heavy with grief and pride, echoed in the command deck. "This is not the end of the war, but it is the beginning of our story." The crew bowed their heads. They all knew the truth. Humanity's first real victory had come with blood and sacrifice, and the galaxy would never forget it. The battlefield slowly grew quiet. Where once the stars burned with fire, now only drifting wreckage remained. Human ships, scarred and broken, floated among the ruins. Alien warships, once invincible, were retreating into the dark, their engines glowing as they fled back into deep space. The war was not over. But the impossible had happened. Humanity had won its first true victory. On Earth, the people looked up at the sky with wide eyes. The flashes of battle were fading, and the silence of night returned. For hours, they had lived with terror, believing their home would be destroyed. Now, instead of death, they felt something new: hope. Crowds cheered in the streets. Families cried and hugged. Strangers embraced as if they were brothers. Across the world, voices rose in unison. We survived. We fought back. In the command deck of the human flagship, Admiral Hayes stood tall. His uniform was torn, his face covered in smoke, but his eyes shone with pride. Around him, officers and soldiers clapped, cried, and hugged each other, but Hayes did not smile. He looked out at the stars, at the countless wrecks of human ships, and thought of the lives lost. This is our victory, he said softly, but it was paid with blood. Never forget them. His voice carried across the fleet, through the comms, to every surviving ship. And for a moment, silence returned. Silence filled with respect for the fallen. The orbital railgun platform was half destroyed. Its coils smoked, its barrel cracked, its decks full of wounded engineers. Yet it stood. It had fired twice, and with those 2 shots, history had changed. The surviving crew gathered around the weapon, touching the burned metal with reverence. Some whispered prayers. Others simply sat in silence, knowing they had been part of something greater than themselves. In the alien fleet, retreat turned to silence. The commanders were humiliated. Never in their history had such a primitive race stood against them, much less destroyed their flagship. They did not retreat out of mercy, but out of fear of another impossible shot. And deep within their councils, a single truth spread like wildfire. Humanity was dangerous. Humanity was no longer prey. On Earth, messages spread across the globe. Every screen, every radio, every channel carried the same words. Humanity has won. The invaders are retreating. In small villages and massive cities alike, people cried with relief. Bells rang. Fireworks were lit. It was not just a military victory, it was a spiritual one. A message to every man, woman, and child. We are not weak. We will not bow. Admiral Hayes finally allowed himself a small smile. He turned to his crew. This was only the first battle. They will come again, stronger, angrier. But from this day forward, the galaxy will know humanity fights back. His officers saluted, their eyes burning with determination. At dawn, the sun rose over Earth. Its light broke through the smoke of the battle, casting gold and red across the sky. The oceans glittered. The mountains shone. Humanity's home, fragile and beautiful, was still alive. Children pointed at the sky, where the broken shapes of alien wrecks burned as they fell through the atmosphere like meteors. They laughed and shouted, not in fear, but in triumph. The people of Earth would tell their children and their children's children about this night, the night when the weak became strong, the night when humanity wrote its first chapter among the stars. The galaxy had watched. Other civilizations, hidden in shadows, waiting in silence, had seen the battle, and whispers began to spread. The humans have power. The humans will fight. The humans are dangerous. And so, a legend was born. For humanity, it was not the end. It was the beginning, the first victory, the first stand, the moment the galaxy would remember forever. Admiral Hayes gave his final order of the battle. His voice echoed across the fleet, steady and strong. Recover the wounded, honor the dead, and remember this day. For today, humanity has earned its place among the stars. The fleet moved slowly, battered but unbroken, carrying home the survivors. And Earth, once a silent planet on the edge of the galaxy, now carried a name that would never be forgotten. Humanity's first victory had changed the galaxy forever.